Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Bevavino, host of the Mobius Connect podcast, focused on connecting military veterans to the maintenance and reliability community. Our aim here is to bridge the understanding gap between the military and civilian worlds, thereby improving the veteran transition experience and ultimately providing hope and a helping hand to any of our brothers and sisters out there struggling to find their way. We'll do this by interviewing veterans who have successfully made it through. For this session, we've chosen to interview one such Navy veteran and longtime friend of mine, Tim White, whose fascinating and patriotic story is a must listen for anyone interested in joining us on this mission. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Eric.
Where are you calling in from today?
I am beautiful downtown Pensacola, Florida, the
Nice.
cradle of naval aviation.
Naval aviation, isn't that where Officer and a Gentleman was filmed back in
It
the
was,
day?
it was, and also we're very proud that it's the base for our Blue Angel demonstration squadron.
You get to see a lot of that there, right?
We do. Lots of Tuesday, Wednesday practices. It's a big thing to go out to the beach, to the pier on Sundays when they would come home from wherever they were performing at that weekend. And you'd be surprised how many people show up just for them to do, because they'll do the Delta formation and fly over across the on the water line, and man, people just pile up just to cheer them on, and they come in and turn right and line up to the runway to the Naval Air Station, and yeah, it's pretty neat.
Sound of freedom, baby, right?
That's right. That's right.
I remember living in Chesapeake, Virginia, Virginia Beach area near NAS Oceana Master Jet Base, and what occurred every once in a while in carrier workups were these touch and goes at night,
Oh wow.
which was, great for them. Not much to watch, perhaps, from the neighborhoods, but kept people up at night. But nobody seemed to mind.
That's right. That's right.
Nobody
Yeah.
seemed to
So
mind.
the Naval Air Station's to the west, but just to be inclusive here, to the east of us, we have Eglin Air Force Base,
Hmm.
and largest military installation in the U.S. By landmass, and that's because they do a lot of the same kind of stuff, a lot of night exercises, and you'll see these gunships flying around and shooting. I assume they have targets and stuff down there they're shooting at, and it's pretty neat. Jeremy Borton, you may remember, lived over
I
here for a
do.
while.
Yeah, I keep up
We
with
used to sit in
Jeremy.
his
Yeah.
backyard with bonfires and watch those guys practice. It was really neat.
Nice. Nice. I believe the EOD school, or at least part of it's over there too, for for the Navy. Is it Tyndall or Eglin? I think it's Eglin, right? I don't know.
Not sure.
I'll have to research that
Yeah,
with some of my EOD friends.
yeah,
But in any case, really happy to have you here. I think this interview really goes to the heart of the purpose of this podcast. I mean, we've interviewed a lot of people, a lot of great insights, all veterans, not all in the maintenance and reliability space or reliability and maintenance space, however you choose to couch it. But you've been in the maintenance reliability space from day one, right? And we met in 2005, 2006 timeframe
that's
at
right.
MRG. For those who aren't aware, sort of a boutique consulting company in maintenance and reliability out of Southbury, Connecticut, led by Bob DeStefano. And what a crew! What a crew! We're all dispersed now, scattered to the four winds, as they say. And you have really segued in a big way from that time. So I'm looking forward to hearing more of that story and the details as well as your backstory. So why don't we start out where you are today, and then we'll dial it back a bit.
All right. So yeah, I have been in the maintenance or reliability space for quite a while. I'm going to date myself, but 34 years if you include my wrench turning time that began in the Navy. Today, I own my own consulting firm, very much like MRG, where you and I came from, um, or where we met at least. And it's called Lighthouse Reliability, and we focus on a lot of the same things we did at MRG back in the day. It's helping people execute their maintenance correctly, but making sure that that execution is also effective. So the right kind of strategy and addressing things correctly, and then also efficient, so that we're able to get the work done in a timely manner. And I'll talk a little more how that falls back on my Navy days when we get to it. But yeah, so it's been good. We've only been in business for just over a year now. So it's we're a young company, but with a strong mission and some other exciting things going on we'll talk about today too.
That's great, Tim, and congratulations on the new company and the venture here. I think it's a natural progression for somebody who's been in the business for over 30 years. I was just going to say, your hair doesn't look as gray as most people who have been in it for 34 years. So
I will tell you that this camera on my computer is very kind to me, because when I look in the mirror,
you got a hair filter going on there, so it makes it look a
apparently
little dark. Yeah,
it's a
I
built-in
need
feature.
that. I definitely need one of those. But yeah, sounds great. Congrats on that. And wow, what a great, I would say maybe another level in your career as you progress throughout. So fantastic, and I think just absolutely appropriate for where you've been and what you've done and everything you've seen in
Right.
your days. So why don't we start out with where you're from originally? What influenced you to join the military? What you do in the military, and then how did you transition into the civilian world?
Eric, you're going to laugh at this story, because I know there's probably a lot of listeners that are going to be able to relate to this. But um, when so I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, and that's why I'm back here now today, because I just love this area so much. But growing up, I did have kind of a split there. When I got into my high school years, I went up to Atlanta and lived up there. Unfortunately, because my parents divorced, so I followed my dad up there. But yeah, I got out of high school, and one of the things I thought would be really interested to do was to go get my airframe and power plant license. Local school there had a program sponsored by the main airlines that were flying out of Atlanta at the time. My dad was an airline pilot that also had an A&P, so it's kind of, sort of falling in his footsteps a little bit. And I went through that program, and wouldn't you know it, about the time I got done, the airline industry was tanking and nobody was hiring. They were laying off, so I couldn't get a job. I think my dad did tell me, because he was working for Republic Airlines at the time, had just merged with Northwest, and he says, "Well, you could go up to Detroit," and I was like, "No."
Pensacola, Atlanta, Detroit. I see a downward trend, perhaps,
That's
depending on
right.
the, if you like cold weather, maybe, that could be an upward trend. Yeah.
Yeah, so as a young guy, that just, it really didn't interest me, and I'm not quite sure how it hit me at first, but I thought, I could go be an aircraft mechanic in the Navy. So I started going down. Well, actually, let me back up. I originally was thinking Air Force, and I would go down to the recruiter. It was you may remember, they used to have all four branches right there together, right? The recruiting stations. And I'd go down, and every time I went to the Air Force office, they were closed. I'm like, what in the world? And I made three
first
or four
first
trips over there. On
impressions
the last
sometimes are
one,
the truest
yeah.
impressions, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, go ahead.
So the last time I went, there's a petty officer standing out in front of the Navy recruiting office, and he sees me over there looking in the windows. He goes, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" And so I walked over. I said, "I was trying to find the Air Force guy." He says, "Oh, they're never there." He's like, "You want to get, what do you want to do?" And so it started a conversation, and that conversation led to, well, if you're gonna be a aviation, well, what I know today now is an aviation machinist mate at the time. He's like, "Hey, you're gonna have to do delayed entry for at least a year. We don't have open billets for that." And, well, why don't you be a regular machinist mate? You would love that. Come on in the door.
Let me tell you how exciting that is. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So there, that's how I ended up. You know, I was a machinist mate in the Navy. I was in for 6 years. Um, and today I would never trade that experience for anything. It's one of the best
Mm,
things I ever did.
mm.
It really, the skills that they taught, the schools I got to go to, um, they were great.
So, did you specialize in any particular type of machinist mate activity? I mean, surface ships, submarines.
So yeah, um, I ended up at Kings Bay, Georgia, which is on the East Coast, just north of Jacksonville. And that was a base that was being heavily invested in. I mean, when I got there, the exchange was a single wide trailer, and yeah, and
What?
and
Wow.
yeah, the Navy, I'll call it the beverage store, where we would go to get our adult drinks at. That was like a fifth wheel, you know. And I mean, there was not much there. But several years later, investing over $1 million a day into that base, it became what we know today as the Trident base for the East Coast of the United States. But at the time, there was a Poseidon Squadron 16, that was uh, crew changing and sailing out of there and doing their refits and that type of stuff. And that's what we were there to support. So I ended up on the USS Canopus, which is a submarine tender.
Mm.
And I learned how to repair propulsion systems, all the auxiliary systems, high pressure air compressors, oxygen systems. I mean, you just go through all the different things, right? That the submarines use. And it's really interesting to look back at today, knowing what I know now, and looking at how we conducted business. And it's like, oh my goodness, in this maintenance and reliability world that you and I work in, all we're trying to do is get the civilian sector to just execute and perform the way we did in the military. It's exactly the same.
And it's a
But
challenge, right? I mean, you were surprised when you came out. I was surprised, even though I didn't have as much training, maybe different training, right? Being in the salvage diving Navy, attention to detail, very well laid out, organized maintenance plans,
that's right. Well,
sticking to that. There was accountability, there was oversight, there was measurement, there was all that stuff. And getting out, man, not
yeah,
so much.
yeah, not so much. Well, and there's particular failures you can have with a submarine that would, people would call that a pretty bad day. So it's really important, the work that we were doing. Um, but again, I was still relatively very young, and it just amazes me what we used to execute there on that boat. Basically everybody's pretty much the same age for the most part. Your seniors, E6, your chiefs, and the more senior officers obviously are older. But for the most part, all of us guys, I mean, we were in our early 20s, and look at what we were doing. And it just amazes me when I look back and think about it. It's pretty significant.
That's great.
But
In your formative years, it just, learning a system like that right out of the gate sort of cements your intuitive understanding of how the whole program works. Because I mean, it's great training. A lot of people say, well, it's unlimited funds and all that type of thing. But like you said, a bad day is a bad day, and a lot of people can, perish from this earth, right?
yeah,
Because somebody leaves something undone that allows something bad to happen. I mean, I could
that's
name
right.
multiple things, but you just don't want that to happen, especially if you're, several hundred feet or 1,000 feet under the water, or on top of the water, or going, Mach 2 with your hair on fire in a jet, right? So yeah, so a lot of responsibility. Other cool thing about that is in the military, you can start at 18, be fully retired at 38 after 20 years, if that's what you decide to do. But again, this whole transition thing makes that a little bit more difficult. You were in for 6,
Yeah.
so I was in for 4 active, stayed in the reserves, but that transition is still a challenge, but maybe even harder the longer you stay. I don't know, but in any case, okay. So you were on the Subtender, and that
Hmm.
was based out of Kings Bay
Hmm.
as well,
That's
or
right. Yeah,
okay.
Kings Bay, Georgia.
Is that where
Yeah,
you were for your entire stint then, or did
for the
you?
most part. I mean, a lot of TDY things for short schools, or being asked to go over and help with something. Maybe down in Jacksonville or whatever. We had destroyer tenders down there on a big surface fleet, and every once in a while they would request our help with something. But um, yeah, the biggest thing was the subs would come in from their 90-day patrol, and they needed to go through a quick refit. And meanwhile, the crews were changing submarines. These were the boomer submarines. So you had a blue crew and a gold crew, and uh, they would
So
change out
Boomer,
and do their
just a just
turnover.
a sorry, just a quick interjection. This would be ballistic missile submarines,
Yeah,
strategic
some submarine.
assets, big ones, which
Yeah,
the parlance in the Navy is the boomers, right? Yeah.
that's
So
right. Yeah.
anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Just wanna.
No, you're right. And actually, the other thing, what I thought you were going to say was, Tim, wasn't there actually three crews? Because it was the blue crew, the gold crew, and the other crew.
Oh,
And where that comes from is when you're asking someone about something, they go, "Oh, well, that was the other crew."
mm.
So we used to joke and say there was actually three, apparently.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, the other crew is always responsible for the mistakes that were
That's
left
right. That's right.
behind, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But Eric, it was really amazing how we did work, right? So we're talking, okay, so I was in the military in the 80s, so computers were not very you know uh,
green screen pretty much, right? They weren't
the
advanced,
people that had them, right, which was mostly our yeoman's, our payroll, and then a few special people. It's not like we had computers everywhere all over the boat, but you're right. If you had one, it was a green screen type deal. And what I remember specifically was that Word Perfect was just coming out, and it was this new hot diggity dog, word processing thing where you didn't have to use a typewriter. And this is gonna be important in just a minute, but I wanted to talk about how did we execute the work on this
Mhm.
tender, because start thinking about this when you think about a best practice work process for any company in the civilian world, right? So name it, but you're having to manage and execute your maintenance. So we have a submarine that's about to come in, and about a week out, lo and behold, guess what happened? They would do what we called a personnel transfer. But what that basically meant was one of our tugboats went and met it out offshore somewhere. It was already surfaced, and they would do mail drop off some other things. Every once in a while, there would be obviously people that would go out to help bring the boat in. But the other thing that happened was there was a big old bag that came back with that tugboat. Guess what it was full of? Work orders.
Ah,
So the
okay.
crew had already created work orders for the problems that had come up while they were out, right? So um, all that would come back. They'd get distributed out, and our division would get the work orders for what we were going to need to do when this boat got in. And guess what happened after that? Planning.
Mm,
So we had a couple guys that had some supply chain expertise. Now, don't laugh. They put in the microfiche, they turn around, and guess what? We had bills of material. We knew every part that
mm.
went to the equipment that was going to need to be repaired, and we ordered our parts. And we had a tech library. We went and got the manuals. And then guess what? We also had this office that we called the planning department. And these were
Hey
the guys
there.
that had Word Perfect.
Mm,
And they would sit down and they would write out the procedure to follow to make the repair. And it was based on all the information we got out of that tech library and took to them and said, here's everything there. And they would write out that procedure. Now, because it was on a computer in WordPerfect, we started to build a library. So, you have a main seawater pump that, needed a mechanical seal replaced, and it was on such and such submarine. Well, guess what? If it came up again, it was already written. So it was like plug and play, and here you go. Um, all these things we try to teach our clients. So we went through a serious planning phase, and when all that got together, the parts would all start to come in, and we would start staging them in our shop, what we call kitting today, right?
Yep.
We start staging the parts, the special tools that we were going to need to go down and do the job, and we'd have it all lined out and set the work order with it. And I'm like, my goodness, this is exactly what we try to teach our clients. And then, yeah,
Well, it's just so helpful, right? Right.
oh
And
yeah,
I'm experiencing some of that now, not to, try to make it an equivalent, but I'll tell you, just doing maintenance on scuba gear, which I'm doing in a semi-retired mode now at the dive shop in Lexington. Okay, the scuba gear comes in. If you got to go search for the parts and the equipment, if you're not as experienced as other folks, if they assemble that, we recently got a new director who was a tech in her past life, so she assembled all the kits. She assembles all the kits, and if it's not there, she goes and orders it. She figures it out. So the maintenance tech, myself, or you in your team on the tender, can just go to work, right?
hmm
They can just go to work, make sure everything's locked out, tagged out, and ready to go. I mean, there's probably other preparation that needs to happen, perhaps from the operators as well. But this is something that is a huge efficiency boost, and not to be shortchanged, because it's really important and where a lot of mistakes can get injected into
that's right.
the
Yeah.
program, right? Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I don't need to go through the whole deal, but you can start to see the parallels there.
Yep.
And when I ended up going to work at MRG, which was in the '90s, um, I started to draw the comparisons there, and I was like, my goodness, this is all we're doing is trying to teach them how to do work the way we did back in Kings Bay.
So at that time, you guys were actually like drafting the maintenance, but I mean, you didn't have MRC cards. You were like creating those at that level of the evolution of the submarine navy, or did you have some that were already pre-formatted and some that you needed to augment? What do you mean by like we were writing them in WordPerfect, and or was it just like the plan, like the layout of the plan? We're going to do this, and this. Clarify that for me.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so MRC cards were usually PM driven, right?
Right. Right.
Remember the old, well,
Time
back in our
based.
day, we
Yep.
had the grease board, and then we used our PM schedule, right? So
For
those came
sure.
out of the 3M office, and those told us how to PM our equipment. These are major overhauls. I mean, this is
Mm.
taking it apart, uh, precision measurements to look for clearances. We had a whole machine shop that could make part. Those guys were incredible. They could make anything. I said, this shaft
On the
is
tender, you had
on
this.
the tender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, I need a new pump shaft. They could take the drawing, chuck up a piece of metal in a lathe. The next thing you know, you come out with a brand new shaft. I mean,
That's impressive.
it was
Yeah.
amazing what those guys did. And back then, it wasn't because they had these nice fancy CNC machines. They were using, you know, outside calipers and inside calipers, and just, barely shaving off metal, and turning things up without, minimal clearances, two, 3 thousandths clearances, and giving you a part that
Expert craftsmanship. Yep.
it was,
Yeah.
again, it's one of those things. Back then, for me, it was like, well, that's just how we do business. I didn't know any different, and I appreciated their skill. But now looking back, I go, man, I cannot believe what we used to do. It was
So you
crazy.
had access to a machine shop, you had access to all the tools that you needed to really make these repairs, bearing heaters, that type of thing.
That's right. That's right. And which is, you make that point. It's also something that we see missing um, on the civilian side with some companies. You, and again, this is part of our mission at Lighthouse, and that is, doing precision execution. You know, using things like bearing heaters in order to install things rather than a piece of pipe and a sledgehammer driving it on. Which is not uncommon to see in a shop. But just getting that level of knowledge out there because a lot of people don't even know, right?
Right, right. And you're getting this at an early age, you're being exposed to really complex project management for these turnarounds, and you're getting education on the fly. I think Peter from the last podcast mentioned, if you're a veteran coming out and you like the adrenaline rush and the pressure and everything like that, if you're not an EMT or a SWAT team guy or whatever, you can be a turnaround guy. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of money at these facilities, and not something that everybody's running towards,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah, it's a great point, and
Yeah.
it's there is a labor shortage in those areas these days. You just don't see as many people gravitating toward that, so the opportunities are there, for sure.
Well, and you're so close to the industry, Tim, and you got out of the Navy, and well, so why don't we talk about that transition and then
Yeah,
maybe MRG and then your career after MRG and stuff like that, so people know that you're not just this guy who dreams up these plans and says go do it and doesn't have any idea like how to execute it. You like done it from top to bottom, really
mhm,
top
mhm.
to bottom, and have seen the results. So yeah. So how was it when you got out of the Navy?
Well, um, when I first got out, I had these visions that I wanted to be a business owner, and you may or may not remember, but we had talked about this back when we used to travel together at MRG. But I had this short stint where I was like, I've been turning wrenches, and I don't know if that's what I really want to do, and maybe I should try something that's like the furthest thing from that. And I got this wild hair and decided, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll open a restaurant.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that part of the story. Yeah, that's hard. Hard. One of the
So
hardest things to
I won't
do.
spend, yeah, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's just it's a piece of the story. I started a sandwich shop in Kings Bay, Georgia, and uh, over 7 years that morphed into four sandwich shops and a pizza place.
Oh wow, so you were successful at it and got it going.
Yeah, and it's again, I was still young. I was only 25 at this point, and I was just too young to know I wasn't supposed to make it. Lots of
Yeah,
grit. You know what I mean?
that's a great thing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I didn't know any better. But yeah, had some good people in my life. But I tell everybody that was my 7 year MBA.
Mm.
Um, I learned a lot. I learned how I needed to market those stores. I learned how I needed to run them. I learned about the taxes. I learned about you can imagine. But
Yeah,
anyway, I also learned that
save your
you
money. Just go ahead and start a business and learn it. It's the
six
best way to
thousand
do it.
dollars. I had $6,000 to my name, man. That's how I started it.
Nice, nice.
Like I said, I didn't know any better. Anyway, um, so but it was a good part because I learned the business acumen piece, which is
Yep,
very much in play with today, right? Um,
which you don't get from the Navy
which
necessarily,
well, I
right?
didn't
Yeah.
because right, yeah. Um, but the other thing I learned out of that is I was aging at about 3x the normal rate. Um,
That grind kind of takes years off your life. Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
did. It did. And right time, right place. Met a guy who was sold businesses, and especially smaller businesses like what I had, and hired him, and he found a couple that was moving down from the Northeast, and they were coming south, and they always wanted to own a deli.
Sounds like a
Man, I got
perfect
a deal.
marriage. Yes, yeah.
So anyway, that's the real short version of that. And then it was like, well, what am I going to do when I grow up? And so again, I'm going to date
In
myself.
your in your early 30s. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was 32
yeah.
at this point now. So I'm going through the newspaper looking at want ads, right? So this is how far back,
As
right?
one did. Yeah,
All
yeah.
the your whole audience is probably laughing at this point. There was an ad, and it said, you know, field engineers, you know, must be able to write procedures, know equipment, this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, check that out. Fax your resume. Well, I still had a fax machine from my restaurant days. Faxed off the resume, and you might remember Rusty.
Oh,
Um,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, Rusty Smith flew down to Jacksonville, Florida, to come interview me, and that's how I ended up at MRG. And
Nice.
so, yeah, but I started there as, like, I mean, the lowest starting position and the most junior guy there, but was there for 15 years, and that's where I really started to learn the consulting side of things. And you mentioned Bob DiStefano, who was the owner at the time. He really gave me a great opportunity, and it's something I've never forgotten.
Fantastic.
I
Yeah,
mean,
we
he's
all
he was
owe him.
great.
We all owe him a lot. He took chances on us. Me too, coming from big corporate, right,
Yeah.
and having sold just oil and grease and not consulting solutions. But yeah, Bob's a great guy, still doing the business. So, Tim, describe to our listeners what, I guess, in the consulting world today, in the companies that are out there, maybe even your company, how people would come out of the service and how they would get oriented to it and how they would start. Would it be field engineer or parts person, or like how would it go as they, or would they just go right into a consulting role? I seem to think they probably have to learn part of the business or most of the business first before they went out and told other people how to do theirs. But how
Right.
does that look today?
Well, so actually, if I
Or
was,
how did it look for you? I mean, either one. And does it
yeah,
still look that way today? Yeah, yeah.
which, yeah, it's probably still really the same. So, guys that are in similar types of roles in the military, whether it's aircraft mechanics like Peter was, or for me, I was repairing submarines. There are guys that repair uh, things on other ships. You might be part of a fleet maintenance group, right? But you've got some of that knowledge and that background that you've been taught, right? And that is probably the type of person that's going to be real interested in um, working in the space that you and I are in. And
And because really it's an ever changing landscape. Yes, you may go into an oil refinery multiple times and see
sure,
similar things, but you may go from an oil refinery to a food processing plant to a power plant to an automotive plant, anything related to manufacturing of anything, right? Textiles, whatever, if there are any left in this country, but that type of thing. There's a lot of variety. So coming out of the service, I think what I hear you saying is you have the really strong foundation and base knowledge on how to do maintenance and reliability
yeah,
in a professional, perhaps precision way. It's the two,
professional.
yeah, there you go. The two P's of you know
Yeah.
extreme maintenance or in reliability or whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
So if someone's interested in working with a company like my own, and there's several others out there, I would see them starting as well. At MRG, we call it a field engineer. We at our company we call it an analyst, but basically it's someone that's getting into the business. They've got a good background. They've got uh, uh, a good base of understanding how things are, and so it's really about kind of bringing them up through the folds. And when you consult, a lot of times at least in our line of work, that means that you're running workshops. That means you're uh, maybe helping facilitate different types of analysis. And so you kind of got to get used to that process. And, it doesn't mean it takes a long time to learn how to do it. It just means you need to get exposed to it. And,
Mm.
we find a lot of times is if the person is, they, they're good at getting up in front of people or good at leading a room of folks through something, then, or they're not, maybe they don't know they're good. Maybe they're comfortable with it, something like that. Um, that that's really all it takes. And I want to kind of segue into something I really wanted to talk about today as
Yeah.
well, and that is that for someone that's looking at an EAOS coming up, um, I highly encourage them to look at the Skills Bridge program to help them do these things right. This is kind of my soapbox for this morning. And the reason is because we are utilizing those um, uh,
Programs, Bill.
programs. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Programs as well for bringing in younger guys with our company. And effectively, what this allows someone to do is, okay, my EOS is coming up. I know I'm getting out. I need to figure out what I'm going to do, but I'm really interested in this. And if you have a company that's willing to bring you in, you can spend as much as your last 180 days
Mm.
working with that company, almost like an internship would be for like a college student working during the summer kind of thing, right? But you're on orders, but the orders are this special duty to go work with this company and learn that. The idea being that when you do reach your EAOS, that you most likely are getting hired by this company as well. So helps you with that transition. Now, in the maintenance reliability world, there's an outfit. It's a 503c nonprofit. It's called Unturning Steel, and it's run by a good friend of mine named Bill Leahy. And what he's done, who he also works in the maintenance and reliability space, he helps bridge that gap from here's a whole bunch of people taking advantage of the Skills Bridge program, but here's the handful that are uh, interested and qualified or have a background. And I could call Bill and say, Bill, I've got a project coming up and I'm going to need to add one person, two people. Do you have anybody in the hopper that is interested in this kind of work that would want to come try it? And so he could provide those people and help them with that transition. But it doesn't stop there. He also ensures that they go through a certification program at the same time through the University of Tennessee. It's what they call their RMIC program. Um, it's a reliability and maintenance implementation certification. And so you get some training there too. And that actually really sets you up great and helps you make that transition. So, and he works with several companies, not just myself. But yeah, Skills Bridges. I wish we had that when I got out. That wasn't even a thing back then.
So you highlight a great point, which has come up from time to time on the podcast, but the connection that you just explained, and Bill's company has never come up before. So it would be great to get Bill on the podcast as a nice segue from here. But it sounds like he's runs a company that not only is helping veterans like recruit veterans, right, and also connect them to SkillBridge
That's right.
qualified companies, right? Which Lighthouse's reliability is one of those, and also especially in the maintenance and reliability community, getting these folks set up. Does that happen at like as a parallel? Like they would work for a company for SkillBridge and also get this University of Tennessee certification, or is it a 1, 2, 3 thing? They get the certification first and then they go to work, or is it like parallel paths?
The short answer is yes, but typically,
Gotcha.
typically it's something that would happen in parallel.
Okay.
You know, work during the day, do some night school type stuff, because the way University of Tennessee allows you to do this is you can do it self-paced. So you can take, let's say there was nothing going on and you had nothing but full-time focus, you'd be done in a month with that program. If you're working and learning and you're doing like nights, or oh, on Saturday I'll work on my RMIC stuff or whatever, um, then it may take you pretty close to the full 6 months to work through that while you're doing stuff. But now you're trying to learn that, you got questions, you go, hey Tim, I was reading this, can you help me understand that better? So now you got the support engine to help you through the RMIC program, right? And
Right on. Plus, you're getting paid. You're still getting paid
you're
whatever
still
you
getting
got
paid,
paid before, right?
right?
Because you're on
And
your
I mean,
service obligation, right?
that's right. Um, so yeah, it's for people interested in this type of work, it's like, I mean, I think it's an awesome program. The other thing that we do though too, Eric, just to mention, now obviously I'm very interested in using folks like this because I'm trying to build the next generation of maintenance reliability experts. um,
The
you and I
country
are
needs
getting
it.
old.
The country needs it. Yeah, that's for sure. And really, if we do reindustrialize, like the second industrial revolution in the United States, right, then
Yeah,
it's going to be an opportunity, perhaps, to maybe even start from a great place with
yeah,
these new facilities or new kids coming up, because it's not just running around in grease all day. It is AI, it is machine learning, it is
yes,
all sorts of sensors and cool stuff that is the most modern technology, right?
yeah. You make a
So,
great point. Um, but yeah, we really want to build that next generation. But the other thing is, if a client is, let's say they get new sensors and some new AI, and we need somebody with some experience to help us manage this thing once it's put in place, we could even bring in folks and let them be part of that project. But instead, maybe the pathway is they go to work at that company. Now they know everything about what just got installed and put into place. And now that's their baby and that's what they're handling. And they can work up within that company for managing that program. So, there's a lot of different options, but the beauty is that there's support there to help them transition over. That's, I think,
which was just the
the
whole
story.
idea, right? It's whole idea, but this is even plus plus, right? So
Yeah.
it sounds like it's really set up for success. Thank you, Tim, for bringing that up. One of the things we haven't touched on, it's quarter till, and we have an hour. We can go longer, but I really wanted you to tell us about your experience after MRG. After MRG, before you got to this place, but I understand you took on a role that was leadership in a large organization that was actually practicing. You were practicing what you had been preaching at MRG. So
That's right.
how did that go?
Well, interesting enough. So as I grew with MRG and had more responsibilities and higher roles, well, that meant on the client side, I'm talking to hire folks. Um, and now I'm at a VP level or senior VP level talking with them, and of course their questions are very different than a maintenance manager's. And their questions were things like, where have you worked at before where you had to own that program and be responsible for it after the consultant
Mr.
left?
Smarty Pants
Yeah,
consultant.
Mr.
Yes,
Smart.
yeah, yeah.
That's right. and
It's a fair question. Right. Yeah.
Well, and as you can imagine, I mean, and everybody that's been following along for the last 45 minutes, they're going, well, he hasn't done anything like that, and they're correct. I couldn't answer it because I was like, well, I guess I kind of haven't. And uh, that kind of lit a fire for me, and the stars started to align. We had a client when we were at MRG. It was a major offshore driller company, was called Ensco. They Ensco doesn't exist anymore because through mergers and acquisitions, it's grown up and it's a much bigger company. And ironically enough, in fact, in a few months, we may see that it actually gets absorbed into the Transocean folds,
Mm.
because there's an acquisition going on there as well. Just some approvals and stuff that need to get finished up. But I mean, but anyway, a big offshore driller.
It happens. Yeah, it
Yeah.
happens. Yeah. So you went from nice cushy consulting job running around getting air miles to like, oh, I'm in the middle of this with you know
Well, and one might argue it was just
everything.
one cushy position to another cushy position, but
Doesn't make as good of a
that
story,
was,
Come
you
on.
know,
Yeah.
all the drillers and stuff offshore called me the office boy, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you
uh,
knew a little bit more than most office, dwellers,
yeah.
the
So,
carpet
but
walkers.
basically,
Yeah.
they were interested in really transforming how they were operating. They had downtime issues they wanted to take care of and address, and lots of different things. All our clients were alike, but they had a position open, and it was to be a director in the asset management group. And they very quietly whispered, "Oh, by the way, we posted this job. Boy, you sure would be good at that job." I
How
I
it works.
jokingly said they
Yeah.
got tired of paying my consulting rates, but it turned into a great deal because in my mind I'm thinking, here's my opportunity. Now I can go do this, and I'll be able to say I owned it, right? And was had to answer for things. So anyway, long story short, was there for several years. We took basically the implementation framework that we had at MRG. That's what I used there. I was like, I've been telling people for 15 years, this is how you're supposed to do it. It's time to prove it. And um, I'm happy to report back that if you take and you have the discipline to follow the process and do the right things, it works. It's
Fantastic. Yeah. So
it's amazing. And a gentleman who ultimately ended up as our COO at the time, he loved us. He go to bat for us because he saw the growth and the changes and the impact that we were making to the revenue for the company, um and also savings. And yeah, it was great. But I literally had to answer to the C-suite once a quarter, for the things I was responsible for and the progress. And it's basically, we call it a QBR, quarterly business review. But it's a basically, what have you done for me lately, and how are you impacting things. And it is also a good chance to ask for help if you needed it from them as well.
so who did you work for in that C-suite then, Tim? Was it so you mentioned the chief operating officer, and
Yeah.
sometimes maintenance and reliability is at odds with operations in a sort of a traditional culture that is not proactive. But it's great to hear that having operations on your side and understanding what you're doing to keep the lights on and keep the drills turning is a big advantage. Did you work for that individual, or did you work for somebody else up there?
Well, so in the hierarchy there was some other people.
Sure, sure.
um,
Yeah, but I mean,
But yeah,
ultimately,
I
yeah.
reported up through to the COO.
Oh, to the CO. Okay,
Right.
so
And
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go
it was
ahead.
a unique situation, Eric, because you know, that company, it was probably the best situation you could have ever been in, because they were like, if you can do it with an email, don't have a meeting. If you need something, you don't have to report up through the hierarchy to get what you need. If I needed to go talk to the COO, I went and talked to him. Now, I was a mechanic on a drilling rig. Not that that would have really been a problem, but I was a director within the company, so I was pretty close to him anyway.
Sure. I mean, but this is a good example, right? Because veterans come out, chain of command, don't jump the chain of command. In the
That's
civilian
right.
world, there are nuances to that, but it is not uncommon to just be able to, approach or talk to people who are outside of your chain of command. Now, you have to be respectful. It's not a cloak and dagger type of thing, but as long as you do that, that's not as frowned upon, perhaps, as it was in the military. A little hard thing for me to learn, really hard thing for
Yeah.
me to learn. So, and sometimes if you get stuck under a manager or a leader that is not as broadly thinking, and you have things that you can do and whatever, I mean, you have to go outside to let your story be known and promote yourself to a degree. But anyway, that all has to be done within the nuances of the organization and in a respectful manner. But anyway, I just thought
No,
I'd mention that. Yeah.
man, that's a great point. I wasn't even thinking about that, but totally agree with what you just said.
It
Um,
was it was pretty challenging for me. I think it's been challenging for other people. But yeah, so please continue. So at Ensco, you were successful. You were able to improve reliability through the stuff you learned at MRG, I guess, then and
that's right.
Navy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the basic things. It was having the right strategy to maintain the equipment, making sure people understood that strategy, right?
Mhm.
And that falls back again on the execution side. What is it we're trying to do here? Do you have the right tools to get it done? You know, we're telling people, oh well, you get a bad oil sample, you need to filter your oil. Well, guess what? We didn't even have filter carts on the rigs.
Oh
So
wow.
you know, it was like, maybe we should get that for the guys so they can do what we're telling them to
Go
do.
get some coffee filters or some pantyhose. That's what they used to do, right?
Yeah, I have no
They
idea
call
what
them
they were doing.
pantyhose.
They were
Yeah.
probably not doing it at all, but that's just a great example of, on the execution side, we have to make sure that we're doing it properly, but we got the right tools to do it properly as well. Um, and then we got into some neat technology stuff. We started collecting data off the rigs and streaming that back to Houston. And so at the time we
Oh,
had
neat.
we got up to as many as 83 rigs, and millions of data points streaming back real time to Houston, and we're actually able to see what's the health of the equipment. And we got into some. This was back in 2016, so we were kind of ahead of ourselves a little bit. But we had some rock stars that could build some models and utilize some of the up and coming AI functions to do something with that data. And I didn't realize how important that was at the time. I thought we were behind everybody. Certainly everybody's got this already. We need to hurry up and catch up to them. Well, now I know that yeah, not so much. We were kind of ahead of the curve on that one, but it's a great example of the neat stuff that you can get into. I also want to say I was very proud of the fact the chief I had on the Canopus. He was a young chief. Um, Ended up doing 34 years in the Navy. His last assignment was up in D.C. He worked in the Master Chief of the Navy's office. Had a really great career, and he retired from the Navy eventually. And all of a sudden, and we were really, he was he was a great guy. Even when I was a second class, he was my chief. We became good friends back then, even, and we had stayed in touch. Um, he actually ended up in Pensacola for a while as the Force Master Chief here at the Naval Air Station. So we, got together a lot when he was stationed here. But he gives me a call one day. He says, "Hey, Tim," he says, "Man, I just retired, and he says, I'm out here. I'm kind of looking around, trying to figure out what to do. I just wanted to let you know I'm
Just
looking."
not for me, buddy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he says, "I'm looking around. So if you know of anything, can you keep me in mind?" I said, "Well, Johnny." Ironically, this guy's name's Johnny Walker. I
Oh,
said,
is that right? It's
"Yeah,
a good Navy name. Yeah, yeah.
that's right." I said, "Hey, Johnny," I said, "How'd you like to go drilling?" Well, I don't know. What does that mean?
Good question. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, you're going to work offshore, and I just happen to have a program going on right now that we're trying to bring in military folks that have experience in the maintenance arena to fill maintenance manager positions. So the program is going to be, you're going to work as an assistant maintenance manager, and you're going to learn the ropes. And in 1 to 2 years, you're going to have your own rig." Oh, huh. Well, what's that like? Now, this guy came from submarines. Okay. Um, he's like, "What's that like?" I said, "Well, remember when you were an A gang chief on the sub?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "It's exactly the same." He goes, "Ooh, sign me up."
Do you end up coming over to ENSCO
He
then?
did. I said, instead of doing
Nice.
90-day rotations, you're going to do 28-day rotations. And one thing you got to be ready for, though, I said, "I'm warning you right now, you're about to make stupid money doing it." And he goes, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it." So anyway, long story short, we ended up hiring him, and just short of a year, he got his rig um, as a maintenance manager, and to this day, he's still there, and he is one of the most highly thought of maintenance managers across the whole entire fleet. Because every rig that he's been assigned to, give him 6 to 12 months, suddenly it looks better. All those things that needed painting are squared away. The equipment's running better. He brings all that stuff that you and I have been
Oh
talking about.
yeah.
He brings all that, and he's a incredible leader on top of it. His guys would just fall on swords for him. I mean, and everybody loves him. But yeah, he's been very, very successful with that. And
I love it. I mean,
yeah,
it's the network, right? It's the
that's right.
network. Yeah,
That was the point of the story, I guess.
yeah. Instead of sending out 1,000 resumes and getting 999 or 1,000 rejection emails. Sorry, your skills don't match what we're looking for at this time. How depressing is that? You make one phone call. I mean, granted, power, influence, that type of thing, but really the network is the key. And already knowing people you're friends with, you know what they're capable of, you got a spot available, boom, perfect fit. I love
Yeah.
that story. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And that might did we cover all the stuff you wanted to talk about with Ensco before we segue into sort of advice to people getting out or people looking to hire them?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the biggest story is I got to work in industry.
Yep.
I got to own a program, and I had to answer for it, and I had to answer for uh, it's success or failure. And I'm not saying that it like went 100% perfect. There's challenges along the way, but it was a great experience. It's I probably some of the best years of my career. you know,
Well, yeah. I
um,
mean, how cool is it that you get to, go and prove the system, and now you can say you've been there, done
that's right.
that. Yes, yes, I know how it feels to be at the other end of the table answering hard questions from very intelligent people that want to move the business forward. And hey, you're in an oil rig. We've seen the movies. Bad things can happen, right?
Yeah, just like with submarines, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, Great fit, great story. Really proud of what you've done there and how you've segued your career into back to business management. Lighthouse Reliability isn't a sandwich shop, but things kind of come around full circle at the end of the day. Entrepreneurialism, right?
Kind of a crazy career, isn't it?
I love that. I
Hey,
love
but you
that.
know
That's
what? When we
awesome.
had sandwich shops, we did our PMs on our equipment.
Yeah, right. You probably had procedures too and
We
everything
sure
to
did. We
maintain.
had MRC cards, man.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, Tim, what advice would you have for people? I know you spoke to some of this already, like skill bridge and networking, but anything that we haven't covered on additional advice to, let's start with people transitioning out of the military. What sort of key advice would you have for folks that are getting ready to make that jump, or maybe even 6 months to a year out?
um, well, yeah, you're right. I would immediately look at how I might be able to participate in the Skills Bridge program, right? So a lot of that, obviously, your command's got to be willing to give you up as well.
Hmm.
So there's always that piece, but uh, and I don't know how much resistance there is to that. There may be no resistance because, like I said, that wasn't around when I was.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard there are spots as you might imagine, but check on the culture and
yeah,
of what's happening at your command, and I mean everybody's entitled to it. It's
that's right. But you may be on
yeah,
certain mission
profiles.
critical
Yeah, yeah,
things, right? It's just like when I got out, I didn't know if I was going to be able to because Desert Watch was kicking up, and
mm,
that was there was a lot of chatter that they're not going to let anybody out until this situation, you know, rectifies
well, and we've
itself.
got Iran going on right now, right? So there may be a corollary there for sure. So
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of the things that I did. I mean, short of reaching out, to your network, like you said before, you're gonna have friends out there that do things. I never got a job because I shot 1,000 resumes out on LinkedIn. I always got my job because I knew somebody every
yeah,
time, every single time, and that network is important.
it is important, and I just looking back at my ups and downs or just career wise, it's always a linkage to somebody that you're familiar with that really helps out. So fantastic. How about for people who are looking to hire veterans? Any advice on that, or just like get qualified as a skill bridge employer and go to work?
um,
Which is there's some paperwork involved in that, right?
but depending on what job you're looking for, um, with Bill, he takes care of all that.
Oh,
So
is that right?
yeah, so
Okay,
the
yeah.
paperwork on my end's easy. But I think I'm trying to think of maybe where we were hiring in people at Ensco from the military. When we decided that that was a way to go, because the problem, we were poaching, all the drillers were poaching maintenance people from each other, and all it was
Right.
doing raising their pay through the roof. And we said we got to find a different avenue here, and so that was one that I had suggested. um hey, if we pull from this resource here, then it's new people, and we're not taking and causing a problem. um I think maybe the one thing that there's not a lot of understanding in the civilian world is that the skills that folks with a military background bring are absolutely incredible. I mean, uh, just attention to detail you mentioned earlier, the structure that you operate in, the discipline that comes with that. Um, it that's irreplaceable. So that needs to be taken into account. I think when you're looking at potential candidates, because I think also the person that's exiting the military may not know how to communicate those skills or understand that they're even important. And they are. They're, for me, it's yeah, it's super important. It's
Right
a
on.
base, it's a foundation that yeah, even more so today that you it's harder to find outside of it.
No, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Make sure you give them some running room, right? Because mostly, not every veteran is an all-star like current company, right? But most veterans, we like to say, are, and don't believe the stereotypes. And yeah, we may have some baggage or some trauma, but that doesn't make us any different from anybody else in the world because everybody's got some. So yeah, just look for veterans out there and give us a shot. So, well, Tim, that's kind of wrapping us up. We're at a little bit over an hour, and we sincerely appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and helping the missions. How can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more? Is LinkedIn the best way, or
I can be
yeah,
found on LinkedIn. If you wanted to directly send me an email, you can send that to support@lighthousereliability.com, and that'll get to me.
perfect,
Um,
perfect, and you're willing to talk to any veterans that might come your way?
absolutely, absolutely. You know me, Eric. We've known each other for a long time. I'm willing to talk. Period. Let's just stop that sentence right there.
Hey, it's a fundamental human need to not only talk but laugh and tell stories, and I've had a great time with this, Tim. I'm glad you and Peter were have crossed similar paths as well as other folks from MRG, and we had this opportunity because I think our listeners will really enjoy it. So a lot of great stuff. Thank you so much, and that'll wrap it up for today. We want to thank you, Tim, especially, and Mobius for providing this platform to help both transitioning vets as well as those looking to hire them in the field of maintenance and reliability.